No high UNC official met any PDP official.
You don't need the UNC to pass the bill.
This is the worst and they need to go.
Fire burn you, Guardian.
How much more could we tolerate?
You lack the intellect and the competence.
Everywhere else is vaccinating except Trinidad and Tobago.
You cannot pay people money that you owe them.
Almighty God, most beneficent and merciful, the embodiment of knowledge and light, we give you thanks and praise. May your will be done here in our nation as it is in heaven. Please bless our political leader, party officials, activists, and all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Give us the grace and courage to always do what is good in your sight, and protect us as we stand against injustice and iniquity. Guide us, O Lord, as we fulfill the purpose that you have set for us, and grant that we may always work together the purpose that you have set for us, and grant that we may always work together with humility and respect. Inspire us in our endeavor to find the right solution to the problems that are affecting our fellow citizens, for the greater happiness of all and the honor and glory of our country. Amen. Amen. Shanti.
Good evening, UNC family. Welcome to this week's installment of True Talk Thursday. This is yet another move by your party, the People's Party, the United National Congress, to bring the issues affecting us most to the forefront. I am Rajesh Lal, Councillor for Lengua in York, and I have the privilege tonight to take you through the proceedings together with my co-chair, my colleague in council, Alderman Vashti Suku. Our platform tonight comprises of a dynamic lineup of dedicated UNC stalwarts who will take on the issues facing our country today. Our first speaker, my brothers and sisters, is no stranger to local government. He is currently serving his third term as councillor for the district of Current Cedar Hill. He has a passion for culture and has been a dedicated servant to the burgesses of his district. Please welcome to our platform tonight, Councillor Sean Brimjan. Political leader, the Honorable Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, colleagues of the distinguished panel, family and friends of our great party, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. As I stand here tonight on this platform, I do so with eagerness and pride. As we, the members of the United National Congress, continue to highlight the great tragedy that has befallen us because of this inept and wicked PNM government, led by a man who is not ashamed of himself and his government and of their tremendous shortcomings, but instead who is ashamed of us, who is not willing to beg for us, who would rather see us suffer and fail than bow in humility to help us. Keith Christopher Rowley. But I am not ashamed and afraid to beg for good governance, for resources, for allocations and releases.
Corporation, so that I can help my Burgesses of current Cedar Hill. While we look at the embarrassment caused by the PNM government to us, there are many of our citizens who are on the brink of crashing, while some have already crashed and are begging for help. And that is true talk. You see, my friends, the lack of a shock response and a proper social protection framework by this government will continue to fail us and destroy the livelihood of our citizens. Imagine it is 1 year into the lockdown of our country, where borders are closed, where workplaces are closed, where recreation and gatherings are limited, and we still have a headless government coming to tell us that the cases are back on the rise. I am begging all you to tell me, where are these cases coming from? Maybe as the video that went viral last year that says we need to ask Terrence, I don't know. How much longer must our people suffer and be held hostage for your inefficiency and ineffectiveness to manage? The government relief programs to offset the negative impact of COVID-19 would have cost this country over 6 billion TT dollars. Friends, if my maths is correct, if 6 billion is divided amongst 1.4 million people, that is $4,285.71 per person. Where the money gone? Thousands today remain affected and on the breadline. Persons visiting my office are literally begging for hampers, and I know this happens throughout all members of council in Princeton Regional Corporation. Recommendations for food cards, recommendations for disability grants, and are yet to receive any assistance from this wicked government. The Commission for Self-Help has now become a commission for no help, as fire victims and flood victims still wait over 6 years now for some kind of relief. Up to last week Friday, former officers from the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services were literally begging for hampers at my office. And these are officers that I used to rely on to assist persons with their grants. In February 2021, we had Acting Minister of Planning and Development telling us that $24.45 million would be used to support vulnerable populations affected by the coronavirus, which became available after an agreement was backed by the IDB. This has me baffled, because previously we had the minister telling us that the government had expended approximately 284 million TT dollars for grants and assistance. Yet if you go on the streets and ask how many persons receive these grants, the numbers are few and many, and that is true talk. So let me beg again, or you tell me if these people really know what they're doing. Who benefiting from these grants? The economy is in a mess. The government has created no job opportunities in the last 6 years. This has not stopped them from unfairly sending home thousands of workers directly or costing them their jobs through poor economic planning. This has had a disastrous impact on our social fabric and can easily explain patterns of crime that we are seeing in increasing numbers today. You know that things are bad when the social workers need social assistance too. The government lacks creative vision and innovation, and that is true talk. We cannot move forward through the 21st century with 18th century ideas. Even worse, COVID-19 has called for creative and innovative ways to treating with age-old issues. Instead, we remain with a closed border and a big stick measures to treat with the onslaught of this virus. Ladies and gentlemen, as we continue to expose the lies and failures of this government, let's look at our education system, and I know my colleagues will touch in more detail. A failed education system results in a social decay of our nation. We have another blaring example of the injustices that we are faced with. We now have 100 scholarships alone to our students, with bursaries becoming available for others to apply for. You see, they can now have their friends and family go through a list and become beneficiaries of it, while those who really deserve them suffer. By doing this, they can tell you 1 year you qualify for it, and the next year there is no funding, no allocations, and they have to cut back. Any government that attacks education is a government of incompetence and no direction. And just like how they shut down UTT campus in Corinth. A failure to adequately think ahead has caused undue stress and burden to households across this country. Many parents are frustrated with navigating online school while attempting to provide for their families. With daycare centers officially closed, many mothers, and in some cases even fathers, are contemplating leaving their jobs to be able to supervise their children at home. Is it that the government operates like an unplugged refrigerator? But let me beg again now. What about the COVAX facility Delai Singh spoke about? Where are the vaccines we paid for that were due the first week in March? Are you trying to distract the population with the diplomatic embarrassment faced? You have been causing us over the last few weeks. Just last week, Keith Rowley insulted our CARICOM neighbors, calling them beggars, to hide his government's incompetence and negligence. Thankfully, it was the Honorable Kamala Persad-Bissessar and the opposition who ensured that Trinidad and Tobago is finally receiving free vaccines from India and other sources. There are many questions to be answered by this government. The list of failures continue as we struggle for good governance and to bring representation to you, the people, under these difficult times. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said, I can continue on many more areas, but I am pretty sure the rest of the panel would highlight some of these concerns to us. Trinidad and Tobago, I listed just a few of the gross incompetence of Keith and his band of lazy, visionless cohorts. Now I offer you one solution, and the only solution. And that solution is call elections now. Let us elect a real Prime Minister, one with a track record of holistic and phenomenal development, where every creed and race has an equal place, where the smallest decisions to the largest are people-centered and people-driven. Let us all unite under this great party as we continue to demand justice, as we continue to fight for restoration for our country, and that Trinbagonians would enjoy the life and luxury that we once shared under the leadership of the Honorable Kamala Persad-Bissessar. And that, my friends, is true talk. May God continue to bless you. May God continue to bless our great party, the United National Congress. The sun shall rise again. I thank you.
Councillor Premchand. And at this point in time, I personally want to extend thank you to the most caring Prime Minister to pass through the history of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Kamala Persad-Bissessar, for having no second thoughts of making representation to the Prime Minister of India and the Government of India for COVID vaccines for the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. And today, the wicked Rowley-led government is taking the honor and the fame for that request that the Honorable Kamala Persad-Bissessor would have made on behalf of citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. At this point in time, I want to welcome one of my colleagues in council, our next speaker, a man who has been in electoral politics for the past 11 years, serving the people of Inverness, Princestown South as their local government representative. He's a businessman and currently is the chairman of the Finance, Planning and Allocation Resources Committee at the Princestown Regional Corporation. Tonight, he will be telling you about the desperate in allocation of the resources and raw materials, resources of the Princeton Regional Corporation from the government. Please welcome Councillor Derek Matura to the podium.
Good evening, political leader, colleagues, brothers and sisters. As much as I am proud to be here on this platform this evening, I am definitely not proud to report the financial constraints that we are presently faced with. You see, my friends, this is true talk. And the truth is, it's not promising. If today you speak to anyone from the various ministries, you hear one thing: boy, no funding, no money. All of us use the same roads, we access the same healthcare system and other public services. But under this Rowley-led government, the country continues to crumble. The roads and the landscapes cannot be repaired, and medication continues not to be available. My friends, the region of Princestown consists of approximately 110 residents based on statistics. Imagine this. For the Princeton Regional Corporation, in 2019, and I will read three heads here, our allocation for 2019 under goods and services was $29.1 million. Our release under that same head in 2019 was $21.4 million. In 2020, under goods and services, our allocation was $27.1 million. And in 2020, our release was $21.6 million. My friends, for this year, our allocation is $20.5 million. You know what is our release so far? $9.1 million, ladies and gentlemen. Under minor equipment purchases, for 2019, our allocation was $255,000. Our release was $142,574. Our allocation in 2020 was $300,000. You know what is our release in 2020? Zero, nil. And for 2021, this year, our allocation was $16,675. Again, you know what our release is? Zero, nil. My friends, and I will read the last one for you. In our development program in 2019, was $13.8 million. Our release was $12.6 million. In 2020, our allocation was $15.9 million. And our release in 2020 was $12.7. My friends, for this year, our allocation is $13.9 million. You know what we received so far? What was released? $438,000 with just a few months to go again. Ladies and gentlemen, let's check it now. If our development program for 2021 is $13.9 million, that works up to approximately $127 per person for development within the region. My friends, that cannot even buy 25 blocks. And if I go further out, and out of that $13.9 million, and take what was released so far of $438,000, That, ladies and gentlemen, works up to approximately $4 per person for development works at this point in time. You can't even buy one doubles in Princestown on the promenade for that. Not one doubles. Other corporations are even faced with the same position. And I think I recently saw, if not today or someday, somebody had put up the top 10 things to do in Trinidad. I think the number one was to leave. Well, that I know, it seems like you can't even do that. This government continues to be incompetent and is taking us forward, and I saw incompetent in taking us forward. And I saw, I think it was one of the print media, that the Minister of Finance stated he have to raise funds to purchase more vaccines. Well, I know when we're raising funds, is barbecue and curricue. That is where we reach in this country. I don't think we even have an arrival date for those vaccines as yet. They have withdrawn $1.2 billion from the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. Where did that money go? I call upon the Minister of Local Government, Mr. Kazim Hussein, the Minister of Finance, Mr. Colin Imbert, and the Prime Minister of this country. All you need to have a conversation and beg if you have to beg, because our burgesses and our citizens continue to suffer. I thank you.
Councillor Matura, for that very insightful presentation. Just yesterday, I met a friend who I hadn't seen in a while, and she was telling me that I look like I put on some weight. But after hearing the kind of pressure we're facing, I knew I was right to tell her, you had to have belly to survive under this government. Brothers and sisters, our next speaker is no stranger to this platform. He is one of the most dedicated and committed councillors in the arena today. He served as chairman of the UNC Youth Arm and is today serving his second term as councillor for the District of Reform Manahambri. Please welcome Councillor Chris Hussein.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Councillor Lal. Political leader of the UNC, the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa of Senior Council, colleagues on the platform tonight, friends all, and for all of those viewing home, a special good evening to you. This is True Talk, and tonight you are hearing the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth on this platform. Every single day, we encounter so many issues facing the people that we serve. And it would seem as though every time we reach out to the powers that be, we are always struck down. They take us for granted. Tonight I want to tell you with no reservation that in Princestown and Naparima, we are victims of political spite and malice by a most uncaring government. But you know what is the most worrisome thing? It is the fact that we have children who are suffering at the hands of these people, and they do not seem the least bit concerned. I tell you, as a representative of the people, every day I have parents who come to see me and they seek assistance for their children to buy a laptop, to fill a book list, to get a tablet, because their children are falling behind in schools. All of these, brothers and sisters, are real issues that people are facing today because of the gross negligence and the wanton incompetence of this PNM administration. And don't for a second think that this is a new government, you know. It is not that at all. This is just a continuation of the same old sickening bunch who presided over the downfall of this country between 2015 and 2020. This is just part 2 of that horror story, and from the looks of it, this one will be a lot worse. I tell you, every day you're listening to some of them. I watch the government in parliament, and some of these people, they're so sickening, they could upset a pack of Andrews. When you look around in Trinidad and Tobago today, you would see every sector failing at the hands of this wretched government. Things are crumbling from aside. But you see, the collapse of the education sector in Trinidad and Tobago, that is an indictment on this government. And who stands to feel the brunt of it? It is your children. It is the young people of this country who are struggling to give themselves a fighting chance in this world by trying to get an education. The hatchet job that the PNM has put down on education in this country is the greatest con job that this nation has ever seen. It is a crying shame. In almost every aspect of managing the education sector in this country, they have received a failing grade, F for the PNM. Many of you would remember when we had a real government and a real prime minister between 2010 and 2015, this country saw 106 new schools. There were 69 ECCE centers, 31 primary schools, 6 secondary schools that were completed or near completion. And that is a fact. And you see, facts are stubborn things because they do not change, no matter how much they try to spin it. I always say, the PNM has to be a very dizzy party because they're always spinning, always trying to spin something. And when they're not trying to spin a story, they're spinning top in mud. How many schools have this government constructed? As a matter of fact, how many have they completed? Just look at the Reform Hindu School, and I get so damn vexed every time I think about it. That Reform Hindu School, that structure was 95% complete in 2015. And today, it has been neglected. It is overgrown with bushes and vines. In fact, some of you may recall, a few months ago, we were protesting with the parents at that school. And hear the magic of this PNM. Hear the magic of this PNM. That school started off as a primary school. When we were protesting there, we found marijuana on the compound. That is PNM magic, because they took a primary school and they turned it into a high school. When you look at incompetence, the PNM is what comes to mind. A stone's throw away from that school, you have children cramped up in small classrooms and they are squatting on the temple grounds. That is PNM logic for you. These are the people who we have to run our country today. And right next to that, you have the Reform ECCE Center. Again, completed. All it needed was some furniture, a few desks and chairs for the children. That is all it needed. But you know what? They abandoned that too. They allow people to thief out everything from inside there. Every damn thing gone. Even the water tanks that had in the place gone. That is the hallmark of the PNM, neglecting education. This is the same PNM who accused the UNC of building a school for Parrot and Dwen in Beach. And today they have them schools like jungle. That is what it is. Overgrown, wasteland. That is the hallmark of education under this PNM government. And now, of course, I expect them to use COVID as their excuse for not completing schools. That is their favorite excuse these days. It is as though sometimes you feel they just wake up one morning and bam, you're in a pandemic. It had nothing happening before that. It had no PNM before that. They hope COVID, ironically, they hope COVID would sanitize them, but not so. People are stupid in this country. Even then, after this pandemic, in the height of the pandemic, they decided to move classes online for students. Mind you, they didn't bother to find out if your child had a device because you know what? They canceled Kamla's laptop program. They didn't know if children had internet. They didn't know in some parts of this country if children even had electricity. Do you know that today in 2021, there are some children who still have to study with kerosene lamp. Let me call it the correct thing. Pitch oil lamp. Pitch oil lamp, it have children studying with in this country in 2021. But they did it anyway. Putting the cart before the horse is always how the PNM government works. A few months ago in Parliament, a GSC heard that 39,861 students are not participating in classes. And you know why? Because they have no internet and they have no devices. Can you imagine that? Brothers and sisters, I am of the view that this raises so many red flags. The government is not only in breach of their moral obligation, but I think they may also be in breach of their statutory duty to provide these devices for students who cannot afford as per the Education Act. Tonight, I want to ask the Education Minister, what is the plan, ma'am? What is the plan? We cannot sit down and continue to let this slide. Our children are suffering in Trinidad and Tobago. But that is not all. You know, they shut down the UTT campuses. They shut down MIC. They cut back on school feeding. They cut GATE program by more than $35 million. It's only cut when it comes to education. Sometimes I sit down and I wonder if this country is being run by Rowley Scissors hands. Everything he sees, he would cut. It doesn't take a genius to tell you, brothers and sisters, that education cuts do not heal. We will have to pay the price for this in the long run, in long-term economic decline. But you see, an educated population, that is the PNM's worst nightmare. How else can you explain some of the things that they have been doing? Take, for instance, the scholarships. Imagine they cut 300 scholarships from 400 down to 100. We have students in this country who study hard and work to build a better future for themselves through education. And now they are being denied the fruits of their hard work. It is like they are practicing rearview mirror politics. They are in the driver's seat in this country, but they're looking backward to see where they want to go. That making any sense? That is Rowley logic for you. This government is taking us backward to a time where higher education was only available for the very wealthy in society. And you know what? I am afraid that this could be the basis for the introduction of a scheme similar to a past PNM scholarship slush fund. Do you remember that? Apparently, the only criteria back then was that you had to have a Balize party card. That was the only criteria, apparently. But when you look at who received those scholarships, it is quite interesting. Tonight, I want to ask, is there a sitting government minister government member in the upper house who was a recipient of one of these scholarships for studying at a foreign university? What was the criteria used back then? Did this member in fact receive from that slush fund $91,172.80 for tuition fees in 2004? Did that person receive $56,983 for living expenses in 2004? Did they receive $55,146 for living expenses in 2006? Did that person receive $25,980.60 for living expenses in 2007? And brothers and sisters, tonight I want to ask, did that person, after receiving your tax dollars, leave where they were in foreign, come back to Trinidad in that same year, 2007, and join the PNM government bench in the upper house? It's a question I'm asking. More than $229,282 for one person because they had a Balize card. And yet hundreds of our brilliant scholars today are deprived of that opportunity. Another shameless PNM scheme. That is thing to get your damn vexed in this country. They have constantly shown that they are the problem in this country. Children are suffering in this country while the feeding frenzy continues. Brothers and sisters, it is no secret. Education has been the biggest bully in this country under the PNM government. It has taken a serious beating under the watch of Dr. Rowley. Do you know that in just 4 months, this government withdrew $900 million US, which is about 6.3 billion TT dollars from the Heritage and Stabilization Fund? They did so under the guise of COVID-19. Again, that is their favorite soundbite these days. And what did they do with that money? That money didn't go towards vaccines. It didn't go towards salary relief grants. It didn't go towards education. They always cry that they have no money, yet they continue to play fast and loose with the HSF for whatever they want. Education is not one of those things. Brothers and sisters, education is simply not a priority of this PNM government. I feel it as a young person. I feel it as a counselor when people reach out to me for assistance for their children's education. And we call out again and again, but who is listening? Tonight, I want to tell the government, understand the hell that you are putting young people through in this country. Understand it. Understand that it is because of your generation's policies that my generation doesn't have another choice. Our young people are under pressure. Tonight I say to you, please, I tell the government tonight, if you do not have a brain, then at least have a heart. At least have a heart. Think about these children. Think about our country. Think about our future. We deserve better in Trinidad and Tobago. Brothers and sisters, I implore you to continue standing. Stand up and fight. Stand up and fight for your rights and fight for your children. I thank you very much. Good night.
Licks for the PNM Councillor Hussein. Thank you very much. And again, we have so much to say thank you to former Prime Minister Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa. And it was well highlighted in Councillor Hussein's speech, the laptop program. Unfortunately, it took this wicked Rowley government to understand the vision and the passion for children that Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa had. At this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome our next speaker. He is a young man who currently serves in his first term as a local government representative for Bellarmine Hadbag in Williamsville, a district I had the distinct pleasure of serving several years. He is a passionate representative and serves with a distinction and vigor. Please welcome my councillor, Councillor Alvin Daniel.
The Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa, political leader of the United National Congress, fellow councillors, other colleagues, brothers and sisters of Trinidad and Tobago, good night. Thank you for tuning in to our second edition of True Talk Tuesday. My colleagues and I are here tonight to highlight some of the critical issues affecting the Princetown municipality. You see, brothers and sisters, due to an incompetent, neglectful, uncaring, and wicked government, our beautiful municipality has suffered. The hardships and agony is not new to Princetown or Naparima. However, we can no longer weather the storm. You see, this Rowley-led regime has decimated our ability to earn. We have seen the Princetown economy suffer due to an alarming growth in unemployment. And this is not only in Princetown, but is a national reality. From Toko to Ikakas, persons have been negatively impacted by a government who has no plan, no vision, or clue how to govern. Many citizens throughout our country have been fired, retrenched, sent home simply because we have a government that believes shutting down and cutting is the best way out, is the only way out. They're so wicked, they're so fancy with the talk. They would say to us, we are restructuring companies to promote efficiency and effectiveness. Well, I have a very humble suggestion to the Honorable Prime Minister and his cabinet. He should restructure the current government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, because this is by far the most inefficient and ineffective government we have ever had. My grandmother, God rest her soul, always impressed upon me the importance of education. You know, go to school, learn your work, you'll get a good work one day. This position was firmly reiterated by the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa, and you could have seen that in her leadership, in her term in office. However, in my electoral district, we have hundreds of qualified, competent, passionate, and dedicated young women and men who simply cannot get a job. They are literally every day begging for work. Now, I know the Prime Minister has an issue with begging, as that was his justification in the latest vaccine gate debacle that we have had. I cannot understand why a Prime Minister would refuse assistance from a country so generous as India. Now, we have no idea when we will be vaccinated. You see, what the Prime Minister does not understand is when he swore the oath and he was sworn in as the Prime Minister of this country, he has a responsibility a responsibility to provide job opportunities for the same persons that are begging for jobs daily. If he does not have the testicular fortitude to go out there and do what is necessary to govern this country, then he should step down. You see, the reality in Ben Lomond at Bag in Williamsville is that there are many of us who have invested heavily in education, but sadly, they are unemployed. They have to now take jobs that they are overqualified for. And this is also a national reality. We have qualified engineers, lawyers, and doctors without jobs. Many of my Burgesses are either hoping to be placed as an OJT or taking jobs they are overqualified for. I could tell you a story of a young engineer. He graduated about 2 years now. He's currently serving as a customer service representative, simply to take care of his family. At 29 years old, you are doing a CSR job and you invested thousands of dollars to become an engineer. This is what PNM governance is. You see, in 2010, when the best prime minister this country has ever had assumed office, she had the tremendous task of reducing a shocking unemployment rate of 5.9%. Our honorable leader she had the most arduous task, but you know what, she was successful. Because in 2014, she reduced that 5.9% to 3.3%. And how did Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar and her administration did that? Her government was committed to building the resources and skills required to increase productivity throughout the labor market. Her team created short-term employment programs which targeted disadvantaged communities. One mechanism used to upgrade the workforce, the labor force, was skill training programs. Must test all these different programs the honorable leader introduced and resourced to employ our nation. The vision was to transition from short-term employment to long-term sustainable employment. Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar administration was able to create over 50,000 jobs. And this is a fact, an irrefutable fact. But what has the PNM done? I can summarize it in one word: nothing. The PNM has done absolutely nothing to create jobs for the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. They have excelled in facilitating job loss and no hope for a brighter day. But this is nothing new to the PNM. It is as though their legacy is to cripple our workforce. Look at what happened to Carney 1975 Limited. They shut down that company, a company that benefited hundreds of my Burgesses. And what was the solution to that? Nothing. But you know, we in Ben Lomond and Williamsville are resilient people. So we started to create our own businesses, became self-employed, improved our skill set to get new jobs. And then you know what happened? The PNM came back in 2015. And what happened then? More job loss, more cuts, more retrenchment. Look at what they did to Petrotrin. You all remember what happened on November 30th, 2018? A particular prime minister would have said, if you went in the fridge and you didn't hear me, we are not shutting down the refinery. And what did he do? He shut down the refinery. So many sectors have been crippled, but nothing has been offered by the PNM. Absolutely nothing. I take umbrage in the fact that the Prime Minister has the audacity to criticize our citizens and say that we are lazy, that we are not willing to work. But what opportunities have you created for us? What do you expect us to do at this time, Prime Minister? We have all had sleepless nights studying, trying our best. But what are we left to do today? What are the young persons of Trinidad and Tobago left to do today? Beg Prime Minister Rowley, beg? The electoral district of Ben Lomond and Williamsville, which I proudly represent, has 9,924 hard-working men and women. But our area is turning into an economic wasteland. We can no longer endure this government, and we ask and plead that you, Prime Minister Rowley, resign and give us a chance of hope under the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisasa. I thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Daniel, for that very passionate presentation. You know, unemployment is rampant throughout this country, but the ones who should have really lost their jobs on August 10, 2020, still sitting in cabinet today. Next in our lineup tonight is a veteran politician. He has a wealth of experience and is a bank of information when it comes to local government matters. He previously served as an alderman at the Princeton Regional Corporation and is today the sitting councillor for Princeton North St. Julian. Please welcome to the platform tonight, Councillor Lakshmi Narayan Nello Ramdan.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lal. Political leader of the United National Congress, the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisasa, fellow colleagues, members of Parliament. Good evening. It's a privilege for me to join this platform and to share with you true talk on issues affecting the municipality of Princeton and by extension Trinidad and Tobago. You would recall, only recently there was a massive demonstration and candlelight vigil throughout our country with regard to some of the most heinous crimes committed against our female of society. But as we say, true talk, crime is everybody's business, except for the PNM, led by Prime Minister Keith Rowley and the Minister of National Insecurity, Stuart Young. True talk, immediately following those events, with the request for pepper spray and non-lethal, as a non-lethal protection for women, yet we have another comedy fest starring Attorney General Faris Alwari coming soon, pepper spray. And that's 1 month later, whilst our young girls, females, mothers and daughters still in fear to get out of the house. Today, in Trinidad and Tobago, we have to keep our young daughters, our wives, mothers, sisters as house prisoners. We are afraid to let them out on the street because of the incompetence of this government to enforce or implement something simple as the pepper spray, which would assist and protect them while they are outside there. So my brothers and sisters, as we stand here this evening with True Talk, to let you all know what's happening with regard to the crime situation in Trinidad and Tobago. Crime does not affect the poor or the rich, but it really affects those who live in the rural community. And I want to tell you, Stuart Young and his boys and business who live in rural community. Today, we in Princeton suffer from all sorts of criminal activities, but yet still, you will not see anything. Only today, God may his soul rest in peace. A police officer in my community passed away, SP Joshim. Today was his funeral. May his soul rest in peace. And I want to tell you, the amount of police vehicles you would have seen attending that funeral today is really surprising to know where all those vehicles came from. And it's high-end vehicles. But when the station in Princeton requests police vehicle, or they're looking for a police vehicle, you can't find one. So I move on to tell you, since the PNM took office in 2015, the Minister of Local Government, the Honorable Kazim Hussein, had promised 100 police officers to each municipality in Trinidad. To date, the Princeton Regional Corporation has an establishment of 30 officers. And no other municipality, none of the 14 municipalities in Trinidad receive any other officers. None has a full complement of officers. So we are now calling out Minister Kazim Hussein, if you and your government are serious about crime, then come out, ensure that the municipalities have their full complement of officers so that they will continue to support and supplement the failure by the TTPS. And I want to say, as I'm on that today, I want to tell you, the Princeton Regional Corporation limited resources of 30 municipal officers every day will supplement the Princeton Police by way of utilizing their transport and officers to assist with patrols in the area. Because many times you would call the Princeton Police Station and no vehicle available. They would have to then call on the Princeton Municipal Police for assistance. And I tell you this against the background. If you recall, 2 weeks ago, just about a month ago thereabout, there was a rape in Princeton where a young woman was raped. Within 24 to 48 hours, the man was arrested. But you know who assisted with that and who supported the Trinidad and Tobago police? The municipal police. Because they had no vehicles to go on that exercise to look for that gentleman. Only a week ago, there was a robbery in my community, armed robbery in a supermarket. Again, man run through the bush. No police, no vehicle, municipal police again. They have to call on the municipal police to help. But yet still, the Honorable Minister of Local Government does not see it fit to ask his government or his Minister of Finance to ensure that the municipal police receive its full complement of officers. My brothers and sisters, we all know crime is serious business, and the police has a lack of resources. Under the Kamala Prasad Visesa government, we built police stations. Today, we have a Minister of National Security who is about to repurpose police stations. I want to say to you tonight, we have 78 existing police stations in Trinidad, 6,500 police officers committed to the duty of serving and protecting Trinidad and Tobago. But here's what. They cannot do that job unless they are given the adequate resources. And what are the resources that they need? They need vehicles. They need firepower. And I want to tell you, why is I saying this here? You know, the bandits in Trinidad have more vehicles than the police. Because the bandits in Trinidad and the criminal element would use 2 and 3 vehicles to put on one work. And the police ain't have a half a vehicle to respond to one crime or one incident of crime. And that is to tell you how nice it is with the Trinidad and Tobago police. This is not to blame the police. This is not to bash the police. But this is just to tell you the incompetence of the Minister of National Security, Mr. Stuart Young. He has no concern about what's happening with crime in small communities. The repurposing of the St. Mary's Police Post, and I bring this to the point because St. Mary's Police Post falls in the middle of the region of Princeton along the Moruga Road. And that is considered one of the hotspots, a crime hotspot in South Trinidad. And here's what. They closed that police station to repurpose, to put into that police station, police youth club, and all sorts of other things that you will hear them talk about. But if a crime is happening right now in St. Mary's, you know what's happening? That resident would have to call the Barrackpore police station or the Princeton police station. And you know what will be the response from these 2 police stations? Tell the bandit, hold on, we're walking up the road. Because we have no vehicle, no transportation. So the bandit will hold on there until when they get on the scene, you know what's the next question? What's the next thing there? Some neighbor would tell them, well, I see a white car going down the road. The 2 policemen on foot now have to run down the road to run down that motor car because there's no police vehicle for them to follow or trace this car. And in addition to that, there are no CCTV cameras working in the Princeton area. None. None. We in Princeton, through our own little communities, try to establish a network among residents so that we could use our own private CC cameras to give the police information. Giving the police this information, they still can't do anything because most of the time they will tell you the footage is not good. It think we had to call you and I know somebody to clean it up to make sure we get good footage or clear footage so that they will be able to use those footage. So I'm telling you this, Mr. Chair, my ladies and gentlemen, because of the fact that they are committed police officers out there. They are willing to put their lives at risk to protect and serve the citizens of this country. But again, with the lack of resources. When you talk about firepower, the bandits and the army, the bandits have more firepower out there than the police. When the police running around with a little handgun, the bandits moving with AK-47 Magnum, and they're running around the place. Our police officers sit by. And I want to go back to the Attorney General. You always bring in laws and bills to Parliament. Always. One bill, you want this, you want that, you want the next. The bill that he's supposed to bring to Parliament is to ensure that the judiciary of Trinidad and Tobago properly functions. I go back to the crime incident where the gentleman robbed the supermarket, the armed robbery. You know what the penalty that gentleman get for armed robbery, robbing a supermarket? 9 months in prison. And he's outside. 9 months. And he's outside with armed robbery. That's what the Attorney General needs to deal with. The man who raped the young lady, you know what happened with him? He outside on bail. He outside on bail after 2 days. And that's what we need to deal with in these areas. So with regard to the repurposing of these police stations, it's not only Princeton that they repurposing station, they propose to repurpose station all over Trinidad. We all know the lack of the resources, the lack of CCTV cameras, and so on. I want to tell you, predial larceny is another major crime in rural communities. Predial larceny. Predial larceny has gone out of control, totally out of control. Farmers will go and labor all day in the field, in the farm. All night they have to sit down and watch man the thing. And you know what? The bandit watching them. The bandit watching them. As soon as they harvest and they go to the market, they sell, they go home. Bandit rob them. You could recall recently in Tableland, a farmer wake up in the night to a man trying to break in and steal his vehicle. He was able to shoot one of the bandits who died. The other one escaped on foot. And you know what? When the police respond, the man on the foot in the bush, because the police can't go down in the bush because there are no K9 unit to track and help them to follow these people. The police in the Southern Division are asking the Commissioner of Police and by extension the Minister of National Security to decentralize the K9 unit. So these bandits who commit robberies and so on and escape on foot, they will be able to track them and be able to arrest them at a quicker time, faster response. We have to wait in South when a crime happens in Princeton, a bandit escape on foot or anywhere in Trinidad, you have to wait until the K9 unit comes from Caroni or Shagaramas. That's where you have to wait on. So by the time the K9 unit arrive on the scene, the crimes get stale and everything gone clear. So again, it's true talk we're talking here. All of these are facts that I'm giving to you here with regards to what's happening with the crime element in Trinidad and Tobago. Today, we in Princeton and parts of Trinidad are very much concerned. We are worried. We are fearful. We call on the government to get serious, put their act together, ensure that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service get the resources. And I say that against the background, and I'm just asking a question here, whether or not the Minister of National Security and the government of Trinidad and Tobago is really trying to under-resource the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service to show up that the Commissioner of Police is incompetent of performing his duties in an effort to get rid of him. So I want to ask that question. I'm saying that, I'm just asking that question. Is it that they're trying to undermine the Commissioner of Police by under-resourcing the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service? So my ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you very much. Long live the United National Congress. Long live the Honorable Kamala Prasad Bisesa. And may we all wish and hope and pray that the sun will rise once again and the United National Congress will be able to take Trinidad and Tobago to a safer place. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the listening audience out there, you see why today is called True Talk Thursday? When you want to hear true talk and facts, my colleague, Councillor Nello. Thank you, Councillor Nello. Our next speaker is a man who continues to serve with distinction. He is currently serving the District of 5th Company as a councillor for the past 11 years. He chairs the Public Health Committee at the Princeton Regional Corporation, and recently he was elevated to the position of Vice Chairman of the PTRC. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together and welcome to the platform tonight our Vice Chairman, Councillor Rafi Mohammed.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Alderman Vashti Suku, the Honorable Political Leader, Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa, fellow councillors, aldermen, our viewing audience, our listeners, good night. Let's talk the truth. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been hearing the truth. The councillors from the Princeton Regional Corporation, and you would have heard them all tonight. And we are still to hear our chairman, the hardest working chairman, Princeton Regional Corporation. You would have heard our councillors, young and dynamic councillors, and they would have brought to you the true facts that we live every day as councillors at the Princeton Regional Corporation. I stand here today, I stand UNC, and I stand proud, and we all stand proud as UNC. And I am hopeful for the day when the UNC can return to government and we can do away with this non-performing, confusing, misleading PNM government. How grossly unfortunate we are in Trinidad and Tobago that we as citizens have to depend on this uncaring and heartless government to lead us out of this COVID-19 pandemic. The biggest disaster this world would have ever seen. Millions of people died. Millions of people are out of jobs. And we are so unfortunate in Trinidad and Tobago to have a Keith Rowley-led government trying and failing miserably to lead us out of this pandemic. But what is more immoral too as well, my dear friends, is that at the Princeton Regional Corporation, we at the corporation are strangled for funds to provide basic provisions and amenities for the desperately needed for the people of our burgesses within the region of Princeton. Amenities and resources that are required to sanitize our town centers, our public spaces, to make the area a little more comfortable so at least our burgesses can live without fear when they come to these areas. Our public spaces, our police stations, we are strangled to make ends meet on a day-to-day basis so that we could have these places sanitized. We lack the basic amenities that the central government is failing to provide. You would have heard from the councillor for the finance chairman who would have indicated clearly the challenges we face in getting resources. And we continue to face this challenge every single day. But we are trying our best at the region of Princeton to make our citizens of that area comfortable. At the Princeton Regional Corporation, we receive calls every single day on a daily basis to provide water to our citizens where WASA has faltered miserably. Therefore, we try to provide. We are not obligated to, but as a caring corporation, we try our best in our limited resources to see how best we could ease the anxiety of the burgesses of the Princeton region. Unfortunately, we are unable to fulfill all the requests. Can you imagine in a national crisis and the government is satisfied with the situation where citizens don't have a reliable and consistent water supply, which is needed to sanitize their homes, their businesses, and their places of work for the day? No water to wash hands on entry. No water for the customers to wash hands. Currently, many roads, many communities in the Barco area, including Komoto Road and Kunja Road, up to today, have been struggling to get a pipe-borne water supply for the last 2 weeks. How are they to maintain effective sanitization and to curb the spread of this COVID virus? WASA cannot even fix their issues month after month, and it's the same problem. You could recall in the People's Partnership days under the leadership of Kamla Prasad Bisesa, we would have installed hundreds of new installations throughout the region of Princeton. Since this PNM government came into office in 2015, I cannot recall, and none of my councillors could recall, that this WASA, under this government, installing any new pipe-borne supplies to any communities. And that is where the challenge is. When that is not fulfilled, everybody reaches out to the Princeton Regional Corporation for assistance. And we did not, and we have not received that additional funding so that we could help those people. WASA continues to fail miserably, especially in the region of Princeton and the lower Barrackpore areas. My dear friends, imagine in 2021 and citizens still have to beg. Sometimes you had to buy water. Imagine that. You pay your bill, you do all that is required, you still have to find a way to buy water. This cannot be real. Ladies and gentlemen, it seems that this government was caught by surprise that we needed to get vaccines. But then they allocated funds since October last year for vaccine. Yet up to now, none has been received. Trinidad and Tobago under this administration has gone to the bottom of the ladder with the frightening statistics of only 0.01% in every 100 persons has received vaccine from this country. We would have saw that and heard that in detail from our dear political leader recently. We have seen new cases arising over the past week. Only yesterday, 38 new cases was announced and 1 death. How many more? We have reached 141 deaths in this country. How many more of our people should die before we get vaccine in this country? Only blames and excuses by this government while our citizens are struggling to survive through this pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, the longer this uncaring PNM government takes to get the vaccine to our people, the longer the citizens of this country will take for us to get back some sort of normalcy within our communities and within our country. No longer the longer we take to vaccinate, the longer our borders will be closed. The longer we take to vaccinate, the longer our businesses will be at half capacity. And the longer we take to vaccinate, the more people will get sick, and God bless us in this country that no more than 145 persons will die. While this government continues to play the blame game all around, they continue to play the blame game with a serious matter as this pandemic. Thank God our political leader would have intervened and wrote on our behalf recently. Now we can see 40,000 doses should be arriving very soon to our shores here, thanks to the political leader, the Honorable Kamla Prasad-Bissessar. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to remind you that year after year, budget after budget, this government says one thing and does another. Promises are never fulfilled. I look forward to the day when the corporation will be fully equipped and adequately funded, where resources are used on the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago and not on the PNM friends, families, and financiers. But it is clear that that day may never come under this administration. That is why we must do all that is necessary to hold this PNM government accountable, keep the pressure on, and do the work needed for our return to sensible governance under the Honorable Kamla Prasad-Bissessar. Until that day comes, which we hope will be soon, we will continue to fight for our burgesses and provide the proper representation for the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. God bless the United National Congress. God bless the Honorable Kamla Prasad-Bissessar. God bless Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Rafi Mohammed. My brothers and sisters, while we are here fighting up for vaccine for COVID-19, I want to remind you that the vaccine for the PNM is the United National Congress, and we are here fighting, fighting, fighting for you. Next on our platform tonight is a man who needs no introduction. He has spent decades in the politics, fighting in the trenches for the people of Princestown. He began as an activist and moved up the ranks to serving on the constituency executive, then as councillor, then as vice chairman, and is today the chairman of the Princestown Regional Corporation. His name has become synonymous with Princestown, and he has a passion for serving people. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the platform tonight the chairman of the Princestown Regional Corporation, Councillor Gauri Rupnarayan.
Political leader of the United National Congress, the Honorable Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa, Member of Parliament for Princestown, Mr. Barry Padarat, Secretary of the United National Congress, Mr. Peter Kanhai, my councillor colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good night. Ladies and gentlemen, as we speak here tonight, and although that at this time we have so much of rainfall in our country, do you know presently over 500 homes in the Tablan area, which is in the region of Princestown and in the constituency of Princestown, are without pipe-borne water? And this had been happening for the past 6 years, something that was a thing of the past under the People's Partnership Government. When these people receive water for 3 days, they will be without water for 3 weeks, and depending on the region to supply them with pipe-borne water. At my office, we have over 75 requests coming in every single day for the Princestown Regional Corporation to assist people who are being supplied by WASA. The regional corporation have to now assist these people because there is no water in their pipe. These are the things under this government. Under the People's Partnership, we never had that. It was a thing of the past. We're going back to the old days. Ladies and gentlemen, this government wants to speak about they have no funds. That is the excuse. When I go to meetings with all the chairmen of the different corporations, that is what you will hear. I am tired hearing of that, because I'll tell you something. You have to have your priorities right. You have a project in San Fernando at Skinner Park. If you stop that one project and you take that money and you divide it to the regional corporation, you will get sufficient funding to give every corporation that they will be able to prepare their roads that is now in a deplorable condition under this government. I want to tell you something. Under the People's Partnership Government, the Princestown Regional Corporation, we was able to pave with asphalt over 100 roads that never see asphalt. It was oil sand. And under the 5 years of the People's Partnership Government, we was able to do that. So you must have your priorities right when you want to take a country forward. And we at the Princestown Regional Corporation, we are trying to take that region forward. So Mr. Prime Minister, tonight I ask you, if you is ashamed to beg for your country, I am not ashamed to beg for the region of Princestown, because the people put me there to represent them. If you believe the people put you there to represent this country only for your selfish reasons, that is not my intention in Princestown. My intention is to represent the people at the best level. And we have the funding in this country. So don't say that there is no funding, because the allocation you are spending on your budget is very similar to what we had under the People's Partnership Government. You has nothing to show for what is being spent now. We can account and give proper accountability what was spent under the People's Partnership Government.
At the Princeton Regional Corporation, at this time, your chairman of finance for that council would have mentioned to you, we have received no funding on the material and supply, and that is a major situation, because you can say what if people cannot have proper access to their roads to go from and to work. How will we continue to represent them in a proper way? We at the corporation, we have been trying our best, but we are not in government, and you must be able to provide the funding to the corporation and stop blaming the corporation, because I want to tell you all now what the PNM people are doing. They are setting up their supporters to condemn and criticize the UNC-run corporation, to say what you all are doing. But the funding have to come from central government. And if the funding is not coming to the corporations, we cannot deliver. I can tell you at the Princeton Corporation, we are delivering, because we are going out to the citizens of that region, and they are helping us. They are good citizens who are using their own funding to help that corporation. So, Mr. Prime Minister, when you speak about the country is in a crisis, you have the country in a crisis, because your priorities are not right. You must be able to think carefully. You do not need to have funding to spend as you well like, because apparently that is the only way the PNM know to run government. When they have money to spend freely, you have to have proper management. That is what this government do not have. They don't have proper management skills to run our country. So I urge you all, we have this chance to work with the United National Congress. We see what our political leader have done while she was Prime Minister of this country. We need to stick together to keep our party strong, working together, that before the end of this term, we must be able to pressure this government that we can return to government, otherwise our country will be in a dying state. I ask you tonight, let us continue to give Mrs. Kamala Persad-Bissessar that support, that love that she needs to continue to struggle and fight for the people of this country. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to understand, when we go to these meetings, you will hear the PNM Corporation not complaining about funding. The reason for it is when the funding not coming to the corporation, they are getting the money from the ministry into special purposes company. We at the Princeton constituency for the last 5 years had asked to submit projects to the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government at a constituency level. To this day, we have not received a single project from that ministry, not a single project. But you go through Pleasantville right now. I was through Pleasantville only Sunday, and you will see roads paving all through. So when they talk about they don't have money and we have to work what we have, foolishness. They are fixing their own constituencies. And in the constituency of Princeton, I want to tell over the 5,000 people who voted for the PNM, they don't care about you, because they don't see your vote important to them. So they will not help constituencies like Princeton that is controlled by the UNC, but they also have people supporting them there. They will have no time with them because they don't need that vote. So what they are doing, they are sticking in the constituencies that they feel they have to hold on to power to fix themselves, because there are major projects in this country that should not be going on at this time, where we could have money for the regional corporations to spend, because the regional corporation touch the lives of every single citizen in this country. It is the only ministry that touches the lives of everyone in this country. As the chairman of the corporation, I urge you, I urge the councillors, let us stick together, let us work together, so that when a general election is called, we have one marginal seat in that constituency, which is the Maruga Tablan constituency. We must keep that together to help our beloved political leader return as Prime Minister of this country, so our country could shine once more. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much.
and you have listened to the chairman of the Princestown Regional Corporation, a man who speaks from his heart and who has dedicated his life to serving the citizens of Princestown. Thank you, Councillor, Chairman of PTRC, Councillor Gauri Rupnarine. Our next speaker is a graduate of the Angela Ruskin University. She flew the UNC flag high in the San Fernando East as our candidate for the constituency at the last general election. Monifa is a mother of 3 and is also a small business owner. At the December internal party elections, she contested the post of research officer and won her position on the party national executive. Monifa is determined to leave a better environment and society for her young children. And as such, she decided the best way to start this is to offer herself up for public service under the banner of the United National Congress. Please put our hands together and welcome to the platform tonight, Ms. Monifa Russell Andrews.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A special good evening to our political leader, Mrs. Kamala Persad-Bissessar, and thank you for all that you have done for Trinidad and Tobago and all that you continue to do. Good evening to all of you here this evening, and pleasant good evening to you, Trinidad and Tobago. How are you all doing? Yes, I know, it's hard. Very hard. But we are doing everything possible to bring relief to you. This is True Talk. This platform is about true talk and what matters to you. Getting the truth to you. So my question here this evening, why some people get upset every time we address the situation? Why? Because they want us to sit and do nothing. We must sit and say nothing. It's all about dictatorship. No, not with us. We are the opposition, and the duty of the opposition is to hold the government accountable. And this is not just for merit of opposing. This is when there are fundamental issues, when things are outright wrong and detrimental to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, when there are pertinent questions to be asked, and when things don't add up. We are therefore solemnly obligated to do so. One duty is to propose motions and amendments to legislations and be able to get these debated. Therefore, the opposition is a necessary attribute of democracy, and we are grateful for the trust that you, the people, have in us to seek your interests. Someone once said, no opposition will confer legitimacy on the government of the day if it is not an opposition that is loyal to the interests of the state and of the nation. We are loyal to you, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. This explains our prompt responses surrounding the many challenges facing our country today. This is the objective of all our various informative platforms, such as the True Talk Thursday, because we have to bring the information to you. We have to fight for your rights and for your well-being of all the greater good of this nation. Many times I have heard, and I know you're hearing it, the Prime Minister used a word obstruct against us. How unethical. It seems as though he does not even know the duties of the opposition, even though he also was in opposition at a point in time. And there are some people taking up that same foolishness with what he is talking about. I think it's maybe because They had nothing to object to back then, and only sought to make mischief and create bacchanal. But the truth is, our country was highly governed by Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa, and she did an excellent job. Do you know why Trinidad and Tobago did well under her governance? Because she knew how to put aside pride for the sake of this nation. This is the kind of leadership we need again in Trinidad and Tobago. Every single day we beg, all of us, we beg from God for good health, to protect our family, to be safe when we travel, for a good job, for a home, for money to pay a ticket, even for not wearing a mask in our personal vehicle with our own children. Right now, observe how many citizens stranded abroad, begging this government to come home, begging to make an honest day's work. Look at that cancer patient recently on Facebook, crying because she cannot afford to purchase her medication. She is begging for the authorities to get the medical equipment up and running. We all beg sometimes, all of us, except one particular person, and not even for the betterment of our country. He just won't do it. Today, I say thank you to Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa for stepping up as a true leader. Humbly, she asked for donations of the COVID-19 vaccine. And it's always good to say, praise God, you know, because right now, we need God in Trinidad and Tobago. We also say thank you to the governments of Trinidad, of India and China. So from now on, this True Talk Thursday, as I said before, is about the truth. When you hear anyone out there and they're talking about all we just doing is talking, tell them, even if you vote for another party that wore that red, you come out and tell them, we are speaking the truth. We are doing what we have to do today for the citizens of this country. We would raise issues for debates and call the government to account for its policies. Therefore, we will not bow to dictatorship. We will not be silenced. I say thank you and be safe.
This is Monifa Russell Andrews. Our next speaker, my brothers and sisters, is a firebrand in his own right. His fiery contributions in the parliament and on the platform gives credence to his nickname, the Peppermouth MP. Brothers and sisters, MP Barry Padarat has been at the forefront of many national issues and has never been afraid to hold the PNM accountable. Please welcome to the platform tonight, the Princestown Peppermouth MP, Barry Shiva Padarat.
Political leader of the United National Congress, the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa, the best Prime Minister Trinidad and Tobago has ever seen. And this evening, we in the UNC feel very proud of our political leader, not only because of the contribution she has made to Trinidad and Tobago in her capacity as Prime Minister, but also in terms of providing leadership to our country at a very crucial and pivotal time. This evening, on behalf of all the people of Trinidad and Tobago, we say thank you to Kamla Prasad Bisesa for the leadership that she has provided during this period that we're experiencing of this pandemic by being able to successfully allocate over 40,000 vaccines from the Republic of India. This evening, looking on, I want to congratulate the chairman of the Princeton Regional Corporation, Councillor Gauri Rupnarayan, together with all our councillors. In that particular corporation, we have a mix of the very youthful and dynamic, together with the very experienced ones. And we had a really good balance this evening in terms of articulating the issues that are affecting not only Princeton, but also Trinidad and Tobago. This evening we have joining with us also Sister Munifa Andrews, and interestingly enough, San Fernando East, where Munifa represents as a shadow, also falls in the Princeton Regional Corporation. This evening, brothers and sisters, several issues have been raised by many speakers. And it tells you about what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago today. And it tells you about the myriad of issues and problems that we have affecting and facing us. But the most pivotal issue at this time is the issue of healthcare. The pandemic has stopped the world in its tracks. Trinidad and Tobago and its government, its prime minister, they have been sitting on their hands after self-proclamation of being the #1 country in the world to deal with the health pandemic. Today, we are at number 126 in terms of the per capita of human beings being vaccinated in countries across the world. That is PNM style, that is PNM style of governance. But also, most importantly, this pandemic has proven to demonstrate to countries around the world the quality of leadership that they have in terms of presidents and prime ministers. And Trinidad and Tobago has been found wanting because we have had a prime minister who buffs off everyone and tells everyone they are not beggars. Trinidad and Tobago are not beggars, but Prime Minister, beggars cannot be choosers. In local parlance, we say beggars cannot be choosers. And after the fiasco in terms of government's handling of acquiring these vaccines, clearly we are in a situation where today we have to beg because the COVAX facility has been totally whittled down. It has collapsed on itself. Brothers and sisters, today the government is lapping up their own political vomit. You have 40,000 vaccines coming from India, being announced with great fanfare. We are being told that 100,000 vaccines are coming from China. Great fanfare, we are told today. But brothers and sisters, what really struck all of Trinidad and Tobago, CARICOM, and our international community is the diplomatic geometry of the Prime Minister. All of Trinidad and Tobago wakes up one morning to see the Indian High Commissioner on the front page of the newspaper being chastised by the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. Today, on this platform, I call on the Honorable Prime Minister, on behalf of all right-thinking Trinbagonians, to apologize diplomatically to the government and people of India for the political geometry, the diplomatic geometry that he has demonstrated in terms of handling the request for vaccines from the government and people of India. Brothers and sisters, in Hindi, there's a word for that type of people who eat you, drink you, and then take the same plate, you give them the food in and pelt you with it. Some will say, as Mr. Pandey would tell us, that's a nimakaram. Some will say there's a locho. But Keith Rowley has proven to be a chachundar. And if he does not understand the meaning of those words, he should contact the Indian High Commissioner. I'm sure the Indian High Commissioner will also have some choice words for the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago in terms of the diplomatic geometry he's demonstrated in terms of the way in which the request for these 40,000 vaccines have gone about. Brothers and sisters, tonight you hear true talk. You hear true talk from a platform where we will call a spade a spade. It is time in this country where we stand up and call a spade, and we call out the PNM for their incompetence, their geometry, their foolishness, and their simple arrogance in terms of how they administer governance, whether it's in education, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in the social sector. Brothers and sisters, this evening, I want to also raise some issues that are affecting the constituencies of Princestown, Naparima, Moruga Tableland, San Fernando East, and as well as Mayara, because those constituencies are included in the Princestown Regional Corporation, but also they fall in the periphery in terms of they border some of our constituencies. You heard from the chairman of the Princestown Regional Corporation, Councillor Gauri Rupnarayan, and also Councillor Rafi Mohammed, about the issue of water, a fundamental, basic issue that affects each and every human being, not only in Trinidad and Tobago, but also throughout the world. We have had this issue of a poor water supply in Tableland for many years. And we have held protests, we have taken petitions and motions to the parliament, we have asked questions, but this continues to be a burning issue, especially for residents in Rio Claro, all the way up to Tableland, heading into St. Julian, heading into Cregnish, and heading into the San Fernando East area as well. And brothers and sisters, on Friday in the Parliament, the Minister of Public Utilities was dealing with the issue of WASA. And WASA is a very topical issue these days. So I asked the Honorable Minister, I said, Minister, in 2015 to 2020, these issues were raised, but there was another minister. But in government, there's something called continuity. And therefore, if you have a project on stream, one would expect that if you are going into a second term, you will utilize the same projects and the same allocations to get these projects underway. In 2018, Tableland was promised an infrastructural project that would have costed $18 million to upgrade the facilities, the pipelines, etc. in that area. For those of you who are familiar with the Rio Claro Tableland area, it is not flat land. There are a lot of hills. And therefore, the aging infrastructure, in terms of the pipelines and so on, that aging infrastructure needed to be replaced in order to provide a better service of pipe-borne water to the residents in those areas. Government came to the Parliament when questioned in 2018. And I think the minister then was Leigh Hunt. Well, he come, he gone. But now we have Minister Marvin Gonzalez. I said to the minister across the floor, I said, can you tell us whether or not this $18 million project that was identified in 2018 will be a priority of this government, seeing that it did not happen in 2018, 2019, 2020, and now we're into 21. The minister said, I don't understand what you're asking. I said, it's very simple, you know. The question we're asking is that you promised in 2018 that people will get an upgrade, a better supply of water in these areas, in these constituencies, because you would invest in a program that would increase the capacity through infrastructure. The Honorable Minister across the floor said, well, we don't know if we'll have the money. So brothers and sisters, the long and short is, as round and round the merry-go-round we keep going with this government, and there's no delivery. There's no delivery, but there's promises, promises, promises. And as our political leader tells us, PNM stands for promises never materialize. A few days ago, the Express contacted me because there was a video that was going viral in the Cregnish area, close to my office, in terms of the condition of the roads, where two trailer trucks going in opposite directions almost collide. And this has been another issue that has not only affected my constituency, but also has affected the constituencies of Naparima, San Fernando East, Princestown, Moruga Tableland, and Mayaro. And these issues have been raised year after year after year in the Parliament. The very first Minister of Works and Transport under a Rowley administration was Minister Fitzgerald Hines. Hines wrote a letter to every member of Parliament indicating that we should identify 10 major projects in terms of road rehabilitation. Big fanfare. They came down to Naparima. I refused to go because I know P&M means promises never materialize. No matter how much they promise, it is simply not going to happen because they do not have the political will to get the work done. They toured Naparima, they toured Mayaro, etc., promising these major infrastructural projects, especially those that deal with roads. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Going into 7 years, not one project has been delivered in terms of road rehabilitation. When the Express contacted me about the sink areas in Craignish, I told them, I said, under a Kamla Prasad Bisesa administration, we understood that the challenges in these communities, and the councillors will tell you, these constituencies are often referred to as this landslip capital of Trinidad and Tobago. And in order to alleviate the challenges that affect these constituencies in terms of the roads, is that you require additional piling and you require retaining walls. And under Kamla Prasad Bisesa administration, a lot of that started in these constituencies, but it required maintenance. So I saw just yesterday, the same roads that were identified in those viral videos, those same roads, what Works and Transport quickly went and did, they resurfaced some of these roads. And by 2 or 3 days later, the road started to collapse once more. So I hope the Express will light up Rohan Sinanan for putting a bandage on a sore. Because when I was asked about what will help to alleviate the problem, I told them, I said we needed infrastructural work through piling and through retaining walls because the land continues to slip because of the soil type in these particular constituencies. Like a bandage on a sore, they resurfaced all these roads, hired contractors, spent thousands, if not millions of dollars, and now the road is crumbling within 2 or 3 days. Brothers and sisters, under Kamla Prasad Bisesa administration, the plan was to get those trailer trucks off main roads. And we had put plans in place to start the San Fernando to Mayaro leg of the highway. And that highway would have passed through places like Princestown and Rio Claro. Today, in order to get to Princestown, in order to get to Rio Claro, there's only one access point, and that is the Naparima-Mayaro Road. Tonight, I call on government to reconsider doing the San Fernando to Mayaro leg of the highway that passes through Princestown and Rio Claro. That in itself would bring additional benefits separate and apart from increasing the capacity and the infrastructural works of these constituencies. It will open up additional businesses. It will boost the economy. Brothers and sisters, that was the foresight of a Kamla Prasad Bisesa administration. This is the short sight of Keith Rowley and his band of merry men and women. Brothers and sisters, tonight is True Talk Thursdays. And we are on the cusp of a motion of no confidence as we go into the Parliament of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago tomorrow. Being led by the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa, Piloting the motion will be our Shadow Minister of Finance, the member for Oropuch West, Mr. Devendranath Tanku, who is also the chairman of our great party. Tomorrow we'll go into that parliament, piloting a motion where each and every member of parliament will be prepared to speak, to highlight the inefficiencies and the incompetence of Mr. Colm Imbert, Minister of Finance. Brothers and sisters, Colm Imbert has had the distinction of acting as Prime Minister over 25 times since Keith Rowley has come into government. Some have referred to Colm Imbert as many things, including our own Commissioner of Police. Had a name for him, I think it was D-O-U-E-N, something of that sort. But we'll not go down that road tonight. What we will go down the road of is the incompetence of Colm Imbert in terms of the administration of the Ministry of Finance in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Brothers and sisters, it was in 2018, April of 2018, in presenting the mid-year review, the Minister of Finance, Colm Imbert, said that the economy had turned around. You all remember that? April 2018, he said, the rains are gone, and clearly I can see that the economy has turned around. Then he came in September, and he said, booming, 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 the economy is booming. 2018. And let us look at his track record and the words that he used. He said economic growth is expected at 2% in 2018 and 2.2% in 2019. Well, it's true talk tonight because it's not COVID that crashed the economy. It is the PNM's incompetence through Colm Imbert. He said that the government has revitalized the energy sector thanks to significant discussions with upstream and downstream companies, both locally and abroad. He said he also revised the oil and gas taxation regime. Well, 2015 to 2021, the only thing Colm Imbert and the PNM knew about was tax, 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 borrow, 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 and thief, thief, thief. That has been the hallmark of a Keith Rowley administration. Brothers and sisters, on this Truth Talk Thursdays platform, we will remind you, in 2018, Colm Imbert said that the non-energy sector taxation collection has increased from 1.8 billion TT dollars to over 2 billion Trinidad and Tobago dollars. He said while inflation has hit record lows, with headline inflation dropping to 1.7%, which he said is a direct result of the government's economic policies. Well, brothers and sisters, you know, a political leader says, you hear lie? That is lie. 1.7%, he said, is a direct result of the government's economic policies. Today, I want to ask the Minister of Finance, and when he comes to the Parliament tomorrow, he cannot hide behind Keith Rowley. He cannot hide behind Faris Al-Rawi. He cannot hide behind Camille Robinson-Regis. She stopped wearing the wig, so there's not much to hide from anymore. But he must come armed with facts and tell us, because 2019, 2020, and we are into 2021, we have no statistics from the National Statistical Institute because it is not up and running, it is not functional. So therefore, they are hiding the data through the Ministry of Finance. But the Minister of Finance must come tomorrow, because the Minister of Finance will be on trial and he will be found wanting. And he must tell us today what rate is headline inflation at. He told us that it was because of sound economic policy of the government in 2018 that we had 1.7%. What he didn't tell you is that the government at that time was benefiting in terms of our GDP because of the economic policies of Kamla Persad-Bissessar, was starting to see fruition through projects like the Mitsubishi and the Angeline projects. When we left government, we left them with finances that were coming in. I want you all to remember as we go into the parliament tomorrow, they are going to come with the same lies. When Colm Imbert came in 2015, he said that we were running on fumes. He said, which we found out later to be a lie, through Jawala Rambaran, that Jawala said he never told Colm Imbert as Minister of Finance, Jawala Rambaran being then the governor of the central bank. When Imbert came and he said that the then governor told him that we only had money to run the country for 3 days, that, brothers and sisters, was a big, fat, damn lie. But that is how they run government. They run government through lies. They run government through their P&M machinations. But I want you to remember that their track record has not been one of delivery. It has not been one of performance. It has been one of misinformation. It has been one of distractions. And it has been one of blatant lies, hypocrisy, and incompetence. So tomorrow they are coming back to say that we took the dividends out of NGC, $12 billion. The $12 billion was to secure the loan for the hospital that we built, that today they are using to house the patients who are afflicted with COVID-19. And we say thank God for Kamla Persad-Bissessar and the People's Partnership, that they had the vision and the foresight that when Trinidad and Tobago was doing well financially, that we took the profits out of NGC and we invested it in hospitals and healthcare, that today we can reap those benefits to save the lives of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. But brothers and sisters, they will come with their Nancy story tomorrow. And we must call them out as we will. We will stand up strong tomorrow and call them out for those lies. Colm Imbert told us in 2018, our revenue projections are on track. He said it is on its way to long-term economic health as seen by the stabilization of the public debt, increases in foreign reserves, and increase in HSF despite withdrawals. Brothers and sisters, Colm Imbert said that we are on our way to long-term economic health as seen by the stabilization of the public debt, increases in foreign reserves, and an increase in the HSF despite withdrawals. When I told you earlier this evening that they were lapping up their own political vomit, this is a clear illustration of that. When I tell you that it was not COVID that crashed the economy, it was P&M incompetence, this is a clear illustration of that. Today, brothers and sisters, our public debt, our debt to GDP ratio is the highest it has ever been in the history of Trinidad and Tobago, thanks to Colm Imbert and Keith Rowley. The increases in foreign reserves, what increases in foreign reserves? Since Rowley has taken government in 2015, our foreign reserves have plummeted, that today, Trinidad and Tobago only has 7 months of import cover. That is the track record of Keith Rowley and the P&M government. When they tell us that they will increase the HSF despite withdrawals, our political leader has shown that they have taken over $6 billion out of the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. But in 2018, they told us we were booming. The economy was turning around because of sound economic policies of Keith Rowley and Colm Imbert. 2018, fast track to 2021. COVID did not crash the economy. P&M did. And that is why we utilize the platform tonight on True Talks Thursday to present the real facts. Because after the MP for Urupuch West, speaks in the Parliament tomorrow, the Minister of Finance must tell us, when he came to the Parliament in 2016, 17, 18, 19, prior to COVID, and he said they were doing all these wonderful things to boost the economy in tourism, in education, in healthcare, in the energy sector. He must be able to tell us how much revenue was derived from those projects prior to COVID-19. Because we have seen that with or without COVID, the PNM has been able to bring our economy to zero. It is at a standstill where businesses are collapsing upon itself. You are seeing right now in the Point Lisa's industrial estate, brothers and sisters, the closure of several industries that were downstream industries from the energy sector. You saw after the collapse of Petrotrin, and again, the Minister of Finance will come to the Parliament tomorrow to tell us that Petrotrin and Wassa are a drain on the economy. But they will not tell you in 2014, 2015, under Kamla Persad-Bissess administration, that Petrotrin recorded profits over $1 billion. What they would not tell you is that their mismanagement over Wassa has been abysmally poor. That when we went into government, water production in this country going to the homes of residents was just at 30%. Together with Minister Ganga Singh, Emmanuel George, and Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissess, over 75% of households were able to get water. You have to have the political will, brothers and sisters, but also you have to have the human resource and the capacity to be able to run a ministry and to run a country. You cannot be grooming golf courses and engaging in political and diplomatic geometry every Monday morning. You have to put your shoulder to the wheel and get the work done, and that is what Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissess and her government was doing between the years 2010 to 2015. Brothers and sisters, in 2018, Colm Imber told us, for these and other reasons, Standard & Poor's has confirmed that the economic recovery taking place and an affirmation of Trinidad and Tobago's credit rating was provided. He said that the first time in 3 years that Trinidad and Tobago has not been downgraded. I want the Honorable Minister of Finance tomorrow in the Parliament to tell us what is the current standing of Trinidad and Tobago's economy in terms of the rating from Standard & Poor's and Fitch as well. It was the Minister of Finance, Colm Imbert, when all of the credit rating agencies were saying that Trinidad and Tobago was at junk status. The minister didn't like what he was hearing, and they have a penchant. They have a penchant for coming after the messengers and not taking the message. It was just a few years ago in that very same Parliament when I told them for the budget, I said the economists are telling you slow down in your spending. This is prior to COVID. Prior to COVID, when the economists were telling them, Roger Hussein, Mala Dukram and others, to slow down your spending, they said, to hell with all these economists. Colm Imbert and Keith Rowley did not take the message. They did what? They came to the Parliament and they used parliamentary privilege to lambast all the economists in this country who were telling them, slow down with your spending, because you were creating, one, inflation, and secondly, was that there was a surplus in terms of economic activity on the open market that was being funded by government. And there was very little room for private sector, that you were stifling the development of private sector. And today, brothers and sisters, you are seeing the rewards of that. When they were told to slow down with their economic spending because they were stifling private sector development in the country, Keith Rowley would come and cuss up the private sector and tell them that they are not adhering to corporate social responsibility and they're not paying their taxes and so on. Today, when we saw years ago that a Kamla Persad-Bissessar administration were giving tax breaks and tax incentives, it was because we were partnering with the private sector. And that partnership with the private sector created industries, but it also created economic development and jobs in Trinidad and Tobago. Brothers and sisters, that was the foresight and vision of the People's Partnership Government, headed by the political leader of the United National Congress, who has the capacity to run government and put this country on track. So tomorrow, as I told you, when we go into the parliament and we raise these issues, you must remember from where we have come. The problems facing Trinidad and Tobago today in the healthcare, in the education sector, in the social sector, did not just happen with the advent of COVID-19. COVID did not crash the economy, the PNM did. And on this True Talk platform, it is a precursor of the fire and brimstone that will come tomorrow for Colm Embert and the People's National Movement government. They have presided over the collapse of the economy, whether it is the energy sector, whether it is the banking industry. And again, our political leader warned us just a few weeks ago about an impending collapse of financial institutions in Trinidad and Tobago. And those are the things that Colm Embert must come to the parliament tomorrow and report to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. But for the PNM sycophants and their trolls out there who will jump up and wave their balisay because they throw crumbs at them on the floor, I say to you, you can run, but you cannot hide. Tomorrow, your Minister of Finance, no matter how much contracts they're giving out an NLCB to pay their political trolls, calling out our PRO Kirk Megu and calling out our activists and so on, who stand up and speak the truth on our platforms. No amount of PNM machinations and NLCB money will change the facts tomorrow when we go to the parliament and we call out Colm Embert and we say, account to the people of Trinidad and Tobago for what you have done, for the collapse of our energy sector, for the impending collapse of our banking sector, our financial institutions. Tell us about our inflation rate. Tell us what are the real unemployment statistics. Tell us about the statistics that are being provided to Standard & Poor's, to Fitch. You know, Fitch became a credit rating agency in this country between the period 2010 to 2015. We've had Standard & Poor's and we have had many of the others for many years rating the performance of the government and performance of the economy. In 2015, 2016, 2017, with the poor performance of Colm Embert and the People's National Movement government headed by Keith Rowley. They did not like what the Standard & Poor's and the other credit rating agencies were saying about the performance, about the Minister of Finance in terms of how the economy was doing and his competence. Because the economy's performance is a reflection of the minister's performance and the prime minister's performance and the government's performance. And what did Colm Embert do? He went and he hired Fitch to tell him what he wanted to hear. Because the others, Standard & Poor's and the others, refused to tell him that he was doing a good job. So he hired them in 2017. And do you know in their first report in 2018 what they had to tell him? They told him the exact same thing that Standard & Poor's and the other credit rating agencies were saying, which is that you are an abject failure and the economy has collapsed. Brothers and sisters, I have raised some of these points with you here this evening, so you will be able to follow the debate in the parliament tomorrow by understanding first from where we've come. From growth and prosperity under People's Partnership between the period 2010 to 2015. And let us not forget, the PNM will have us believe that in 2010, Kamla Persad-Bissessar came in and the economy was doing great and that there was no unemployment. When Kamla Persad-Bissessar became Prime Minister of this country in 2010, she inherited in the construction industry alone a debt of $7 billion. Not $1 million, $7 billion. Carl Member told us in 2015, their very first budget, that they had contractors knocking at their doors to pay outstanding bills of the People's Partnership. Complain, cry, moan. That has always been PNM style. From 2015 to where we are today is blame Kamla and blame the UNC. When Kamla Persad-Bissessar was saddled with $7 billion in debt in the construction industry, when we were saddled with having to pay for Napa and Sapa and the Hyatt Hotel, when we had to pay for Tamina Park, when we had to pay for the hotel in Tobago, brothers and sisters, Kamla Persad-Bissessar could have easily thrown her hands up in the air in 2010 to 2015 and complain. She chose not to do that. She chose to perform arduously, to perform in a way that no other Prime Minister and government has performed in this country before, and which is investing in the people, in the human resource of Trinidad and Tobago, in the areas of healthcare, education, social services, sports, tourism, foreign relations. And that is why today, Kamla Persad-Bissessar could put pen to paper and write the Prime Minister of India, and he has the respect for her that in responding to Rowley's geometry, he has given Trinidad and Tobago 40,000 vaccines. Prime Minister of India, tonight we say Dhanyavad, thank you, thank you, thank you. But we also say thank you to the real Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Kamla Persad-Bissessar, who has demonstrated, not only through her words, but through her actions, how far she is willing to go. You know, I saw so many of the PNM trolls again out there criticizing our political leader, saying that we breached protocol. In a case of life and death, there is no protocol, there is only survival. And Kamla Persad-Bissessar understood that, and she was willing to take and do whatever it meant in order to secure those vaccines for the people of this country. Just like how she secured devices for all the children between 2010 to 2015, she had the vision and the foresight of the things that needs to be done in order for us to have a progressive society, but also in order for us to look beyond our nose and look beyond our faces and put things in place. Brothers and sisters, we are living in a time where it is a new normal. Things are very different. We cannot do the same things over and over again expecting a different result. And therefore we must step out of the box and push the boundaries. And that is why on Truth Talk Thursday's platform, we ask you to stand with us. You are the messengers out there who will carry our message. You are the ones who will call in into the radio shows, into the TV programs, and carry the message. And we will provide you with the facts from this platform on True Talk Thursdays, on our Monday night forums, so that we empower you with the information so that you can disseminate it to the people of Trinidad and Tobago and dispel the misinformation and the machinations of the People's National Movement. Brothers and sisters, it is when the PNM's back is against the wall, as our Prime Minister and our political leader has always told you, the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar, as she continues to be attacked in the most savage way. We have always told you, when the PNM's back is against the wall, as they are today, they are feeling the wrath of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. When the people are starting to spill out on the streets in candlelight vigils, in protest action, whether it be for water, social services, they, PNM, will push back. They are like a wounded animal. They are vicious. They will stop at nothing. But we must never allow that to deter us from standing tall and standing brave in defense of what is right and in defense of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And tomorrow when we go into that parliament, we will be armed with our facts and figures. And as our member for Oropuch West, guided by our political leader, the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar, draws political swords in that parliament and calls out Colm Imbert Keith Rowley and an incompetent, inefficient People's National Movement who have presided over the collapse of the economy of Trinidad and Tobago. We must know that we have citizens standing resolute behind us, willing, ready, able to fight at our sides. Brothers and sisters, now is the time is now. Where we stand on True Talk Thursdays, on our Monday night forums, that we have an activity that is happening almost every single day of the week in the United National Congress. That is the vision of Kamla Persad-Bissessar. We could have been home in our homes, watching Netflix, watching The Crown and Bridgerton, as I know many of you do. But we are fighting because we know that the bread and butter issues are affecting you when you go into the supermarkets and you cannot buy food, when mothers cannot buy milk. We are providing a voice for you because that is what you have elected us to do. We have told you that we'll fight for you whether it's inside or outside of the parliament. And I see a few of my colleagues, they are learning to get put out in the parliament. But they are learning to be brave and fearless. And that is what we must be. We must be brave and fearless in this country as we oppose a wicked, incompetent regime headed by the Rottweiler. Well, they used to call him the Rottweiler. But tonight I want to say that the People's National Movement must claim their political jamet in Keith Rowley. When Keith Rowley stood on a platform and referred to the political leader of the UNC, Kamla Persad-Bissessar, as engaging in political geometry. Tonight I call on Camille Robinson-Regis, the head of the women's arm of the PNM, to claim their political jamet in Keith Rowley in terms of how he has conducted the diplomatic relations of two sovereign countries, Trinidad and Tobago and the Republic of India. Tonight, we apologize from this platform to the people and the Prime Minister of India, and we thank you for your kind generosity, for the love that you have demonstrated to Trinidad and Tobago because of a lady known as the daughter of Bihar, Kamla Persad-Bissessar. Brothers and sisters, I thank you. We stand with you. May God continue to bless you. And as night follows day, the sun will rise again. Long live the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar, and long live the United National Congress. I thank you.
Thank you, MP Barry Shiva Padarat. My brothers and sisters, that brings us to the end of this week's installment of True Talk Thursday. I want to thank you all for joining us on behalf of Team Princestown, Naparima, and the United National Congress. I also want to ask you to join us tomorrow, live from Parliament, right here on the UNC live stream, where the opposition will be moving a motion of no confidence into the worst Minister of Finance this country has ever seen. And on Saturday, live from Naparima, from 7:30 p.m., where we will bring to you the Hard Facts Procurement Roundtable. Thank you very much.
Douglas Politics Friday night, 7:30. I would like to beg each and every one of you to pay attention to Douglas Politics. I want to beg you to listen, beg you to analyze, beg you to hear, beg you to share. I want to beg you to give me your attention so that we can dissect the issues of the day, provide solutions, and let you know why Trinidad and Tobago is in such chaos. I beg you to get rid of the PNM. I beg you to get rid of Rowley. I beg you to take that small pin and stick it where the sun don't shine. I beg of you to look at Douglas Politics Friday night, 7:30. Let's all be beggars together.
No high UNC official met any PDP official.
You don't need the UNC to pass the bill.
This is the worst and they need to go.
Fire burn you, Guardian.
How much more could we tolerate?
You lack the intellect and the competence.
Everywhere else is vaccinating except Trinidad and Tobago.
You cannot pay people money that you owe them.